Welcome back, gearheads. In the 1960s Australia, some cars looked like Grandpa's grocery getter, but under the hood, total sleepers. One of these could smoke a V8 at the lights and still had a baby seat in the back. These are the 8 unknown Australian sleeper cars of the 1960s. Number 8, Morris Major Elite Series 2, 1962 to 1964. A car built for quiet suburban errands, yet somehow had enough guts to chase down bigger sixes on a weekend run. It looked like it belonged outside a pharmacy or waiting at a school pickup line, but underneath that modest skin, this little Aussie-Brit hybrid had more bite than anyone expected. By the early 1960s, most Australians would glance at the Morris Major Elite and see a commuter's car. Polite, conservative, predictable. You'd expect it to pull into the church car park or school gates, not pull past a Falcon on the highway. But hiding beneath that gently sloped bonnet was a little surprise: a 1.6-liter BMC B-Series engine, stretched to 1,622 cubic centimeters. Now, 64 horsepower and 86 pound-feet of torque won't raise any eyebrows in 2025. But consider this. The Major weighed only 920 kilograms. That meant a punchy power-to-weight ratio, capable of sending this humble sedan from 0 to 60 miles per hour in around 13 seconds. That may not sound blistering today, but back then, in a compact sedan, that was real pace. And it didn't stop there. The Major Elite Series 2 came with front disc brakes, an unusual bonus for a car of this size and price. That gave it braking confidence its competitors couldn't match. On twisting rural roads or city corners, it could hang close to heavier 6-cylinder rivals. Cars that cost more, weighed more, and made a lot more noise doing it. But the real magic was how silent its threat was. This wasn't a sports car pretending to be civil. It was the opposite, a civil car that just happened to have fangs. Of course, it wasn't flawless. Build quality could be hit or miss. Rust was a recurring villain, and the interior? Let's call it utilitarian. Vinyl everything, a dashboard that looked like it was borrowed from a lawnmower. But somehow that didn't matter, because every now and then, someone would pull up next to this unassuming compact, rev their big six with confidence, and find themselves staring at its taillights. This was the kind of sleeper that never asked for respect, but earned it, quietly, repeatedly. And when it finally slowed down and turned into the grocery store parking lot, you were left thinking, what the hell just happened? But if that polite little Brit-Aussie blend could quietly destroy you at the lights, wait till you meet the Holden that had no stripes, no scoops, and still made people whisper its name in performance circles. Number 7, Holden EH Special 179, 1963 to 1965. Now this was the classic case of don't judge a book by its cover. Clean, squared off, almost anonymous. The Holden EH Special 179 didn't scream for attention. It didn't have racing stripes, flashy wheels, or a loud exhaust. What it had was a secret weapon. When it launched in 1963, Holden's EH series was meant to move Australia. Mums, tradies, dogs, camping gear, lawn chairs. It was the suburban chariot of choice. But under that broad bonnet, Holden quietly slipped in its newest toy, the 179 cubic inch 2.9-liter red motor. Compared to the tired old gray motor that came before, this engine was a leap into the future. 115 horsepower, 176 pound-feet of torque, and most importantly, it wanted to rev. It pulled stronger, climbed cleaner, and could break into the low 11-second range for 0 to 60 miles per hour. That's right, 11 seconds in a car that your uncle used to teach you how to parallel park. And people started to notice, not at first, but soon enough, drivers learned that if you lined up next to an EH with the 179 badge, you were rolling the dice. Lightweight, just over 1,100 kilograms, and surprisingly spry, it had the straight line pull to catch more stylish European imports off guard. And if you happened to be rolling with a tuned version, with twin carbs, maybe a more aggressive cam, it wasn't just a sleeper anymore. It was a weapon. In fact, this motor became a legend in tuning circles. Street racers and backyard mechanics loved how easy it was to wake up. You didn't need deep pockets, just know-how and a little attitude. Suddenly, EHs were out-dragging cars that cost twice as much and looking entirely ordinary while doing it. But even legends have weaknesses. The drum brakes struggled if you leaned in too hard. The steering felt like it belonged on a boat. In corners, let's just say it preferred straight lines. But that's the point. This was a car that lulled you into underestimating it. You'd laugh at the body, mock the badge, then get smoked at the lights and wonder how it happened. Again, the EH Special 179 wasn't loud. It wasn't cocky, but it had something far more dangerous, real capability hiding behind the ordinary. And just when Aussies were getting used to the idea of a sleeper Holden, Chrysler came along with something bolder, bigger, meaner, a machine with American firepower and just enough Aussie soul to make it dangerous. Stay tuned. Number 6. Chrysler Valiant SV1, 1962 to 1963. This one didn't just whisper sleeper, it spoke it in fluent Detroit drawl. When the Chrysler Valiant SV1 hit Australian roads in 1962, most drivers didn't quite know what to make of it. It had a sharp American face, a weirdly high beltline, and a nose that looked like it belonged in a low-budget sci-fi film. Most thought it was a bit odd, but odd or not, this thing moved. While Holden and Ford were still playing it safe with underpowered sixes, Chrysler dropped something else under the bonnet of the SV1, the 225 cubic inch slant six. Tilted 30 degrees to one side, this inline six looked strange, sounded strange, but made 145 horsepower and 215 pound-feet of torque right out of the box. Let that sink in. 145 horses in a car from 1962. This wasn't just a quick family sedan, this was a bruiser in disguise. That meant the SV1 could run a sub-11 second 0 to 60 miles per hour at stock weight. In an era where most rivals were still crawling to 60 in 14 or 15 seconds, the Valiant was already 2 postcodes ahead. But the power was just one part of the puzzle. What made this car truly dangerous was how normal it looked doing it. The SV1 had no fake vents, no racing stripes, no wheel flares, just steel hubcaps and a, what year is that? Grill. It was the kind of car your grandfather might drive to the hardware store, until he dropped the hammer, and then it was too late. The secret weapon? Torque. That slanted 6 delivered waves of it from idle, making the SV1 feel faster than its numbers even suggested. It didn't need to scream up to redline, it just shoved, confidently, all the way through the revs. And with a rugged 3-speed manual or Chrysler's clever push-button auto, it didn't matter how you launched it, it went. Sure, the SV1 had its quirks. Steering was numb, and the front suspension made it feel like a boat in corners. But sleepers aren't built for corners, they're built for shock. And shock is what you got. This was the first time Aussie drivers really felt American muscle sneak into the family car segment. A car that looked like a librarian and punched like a dock worker. It wouldn't be the last, because just a few years later, Ford rolled out something sleeker, quieter, more sophisticated, and somehow even more brutal. Like stories about forgotten fast cars? Subscribe for more underrated machines that never got the spotlight they deserved. Number 5. Ford Falcon XR 200 Pursuit, 1966 to 1968. At first glance, it was just another XR Falcon, the family sedan Ford built for growing suburbs and Sunday drives. But behind the badge, behind the friendly face and well-mannered panels, lurking underneath was one of the most underappreciated